May we now recognize the original Miss Earth, according to Senator Recto. Senator Loren Legarda.
The original
I do not know what year.
Senator Loren Legarda is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow members of the Senate, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today as your chair for the Committees on Climate Change and Finance. And apart from this duty, in my many years, if not decades as public servant, we've learned to fight for what I believe is best for the environment and our people. Since the Philippines signing of the Paris Agreement on Earth Day, April 22nd, 2016 in New York, we have advocated for its ratification on the firm belief that it is in our best interest to do so. Thus, my sincerest thanks for your unanimous support on this historic day of the Senate's concurrence in the accession to the Paris Agreement. First, the Paris Agreement is a testament of solidarity and a call for global climate action. The Paris Agreement shows that developing nations and the developed countries could pursue climate action and uphold climate justice together. With the Yolanda tragedy, the Philippines became the face of climate vulnerability. We have hardly contributed to climate change, and yet we are the victims. The world listened to our voice in the climate talks. We had the moral suasion. We were regarded the leader of the vulnerable, the champion for climate justice. During the Philippine chairmanship of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, we fought for a climate goal that limits global warming to below 1.5 degrees Celsius and calls for ambitious and immediate reduction of greenhouse gas emissions that would minimize climate and disaster risks to enable adaptation and ensure sustainable development. Our country also championed the mainstreaming of gender equality and the rights of indigenous peoples, migrants, and children in climate policies, the use of comprehensive disaster risk assessment in addressing further loss and damage, and the provision of grant-based financing for developing countries for climate change adaptation and mitigation measures. These are all embedded in the Paris Agreement. Second, the Paris Agreement is a manifesto for climate justice in pursuit of the international law principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, or CBDR, used in climate negotiations. Commitments to reduce emissions from all countries must be equitable and just. The industrialized nations, those that have contributed the most to global warming, must lead and shoulder the far greater burden of acting faster, sooner, and with greater responsibility and accountability to our environment. Third, according to the Paris Agreement, acceding to it allows our country access to international climate finance mechanisms and to acquire support from developed countries for adaptation, mitigation, technology development, and transfer and capacity building. These could help finance the development and rollout of our early warning systems, comprehensive risk assessment and management tools, and other capacity building projects and programs that would make our communities more resilient to climate change. Fourth, acceding to the Paris Agreement strengthens our country's role in climate talks. We will not be mere observers now. We will exercise governance, oversight, leadership, and decision-making in the implementation of the agreement and continue to be a strong actor in advancing our country's interests as the voice of the vulnerable in international climate negotiations. And fifth, the Paris Agreement is an embodiment of a legacy. Committing to the Paris Agreement will go down in history as one of our shining achievements. The 17th Congress can be regarded as a legislative assembly that championed climate action, environmental protection, and sustainable development. The 17th Congress, under the Duterte administration, will be remembered for paving the way for green jobs and green growth for the Filipino nation. Thank you very much to our dear colleagues, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.